In the last 19th session, we reviewed keywords of preparation and future forecast for the virtue of preparation. Now, let's talk about keywords of efforts, initiative, intuition, start, patience, sincerity, and change for the virtue of preparation. Effort's lexical concept is to work with body and mind to achieve purpose. The word of efforts was derived from the Latin Conatus, impulse, tendency, inclination, promise, which means that the object inherently possesses the tendency to continue to elevate itself. Excellence is only a result of intentional effort. Exceptional violinists practice solo performance for an average of 24 hours a week. Ordinary violinists practice an average of 9 hours a week for solo performance. If you add up the practicing hours of the students until they're 18 years of age, excellent violinists practice 7,410 hours and ordinary performers practice 3,420 hours. I had many opportunities to take lectures at the CEO breakfast meeting. To attend a lecture that begins at 7 a.m., I usually start at 6 a.m. at home, and I get up at 5 a.m. I cannot drink because I have to go to bed before 10 o'clock p.m. in order to get up at 5 o'clock. It is vitally important to give lectures in a clear spirit. Therefore, most of the CEOs attending the breakfast are the morning type. They live busily, study hard, and have no time to drink, but their happiness is very high. They do what they want to do, learn what they want to learn, and they do not blame others. British psychologists Roswell and Cohen announced that happiness index equals P plus 5E plus 3H. Here, P represents one's view of life, adaptability and flexibility as personal characteristics. E means health, money, and human relations as survival conditions. H means social desires such as ambition, success, expectation, and self-esteem as a high-level state. Thus, survival conditions are 5 times more important than personal characteristics, and high-dimensional conditions are 3 times more important than personal characteristics. Inamori, Kyocera's chairman, delivered the success condition of life and organization, S equals ACE. Success equals attitude times capability times effort. The most important thing is attitude, and especially voluntary attitude that emits passion is important. Thinking a lot, reading a lot, laughing a lot, and an attitude that is the best at the moment become an important nutrient of life. The equation of life's success and happiness differs from person to person by the principle of relativity. So we have to make our own happiness equation, not the happiness equation of others. Especially if you think that you will get happiness by your efforts rather than by chance or fortune, you should seriously consider your own happiness equation. It is a way to increase the happiness index by not attending morning drink meetings but by attending breakfast meetings enthusiastically. Initiative's dictionary concept is to be a model for others personally, acting ahead of others. In order to be successful, we must take the initiative. Our highest priority to take the initiative on our own among the navigator behaviors of, for oneself, together, the bigger into the world. A person who relies on others without doing something on his own is not living his own life, but living the life of others. Managers should set an example for members and politicians should set an example for the people. Parents should take the initiative for their children. If parents wish that their child studies well, the parents should have the attitude to study first. If parents do not want their children to drink alcohol, parents should refrain from drinking first. Nevertheless, we make mistakes when we are talking in just words, but not taking an initiative and setting an example first. The example that the initiative is not easy is for a mother crab to teach its baby crab to walk straight. However, no matter how hard it tries to walk straight, the baby crab will only walk sideways. It is natural that the crab is instinctively walking sideways. Still, the mother crab pushes the baby crab to walk straight. The impatient mother crab shows a demonstration, but the mother crab walks to the side as well. Even though it also walks sideways, it has pushed the young crab to walk straight. It is difficult to take the initiative that much. It is against the rule of taking an initiative that while a father is smoking, he forces his child not to smoke. A leading example of taking an initiative is the survival of Ernest Henry Shackleton's Antarctic crossing expedition. On December 5, 1914, British explorer Sir Shackleton traveled to Antarctica with 27 members on the ship, the Endurance. However, after 44 days of sailing, the ship was trapped in the buzzing of the Weddell Sea, and the boat was wrecked, and was put in a position of not being able to cuddle. It was the worst situation where food and fuel had run out in the homicidal cold of Antarctica, where all sides were covered with ice, and it was impossible to communicate with anybody else. Hunger was the greatest pain. But the behavior the team showed was amazing. They grabbed the penguins and encouraged each other to ease hunger. He helped others with his sacrifice while his feet were rotting with his statues. Shackleton took all the measures to save them and set an example for himself. At the end of turning the corner of death, he finally saved 27 of his crew miraculously, and let them go back home. Prior to this, in 1913, Stevenson's Canadian expedition sailed to the Arctic. They had the same fate. The ship was trapped in the ice, and wrecked, and despair had come. In this situation, the members ran to live alone. The hungry team members became pirates with selfishness and greed, and eventually none survived and became self-destructive. The first of Shackleton's lessons is, do not forget the ultimate goal. And do your best to achieve your short-term goals. He decided to set the goal of dragging sleighs and lifeboats across the ice fields to save emergency food and venturing out for them. The second was, take the initiative with visible and long-remembering symbols and actions. When the ship was shipwrecked, he decided to lighten the burden, and ordered that he throw away any items that were not needed. He looked inside the overcoat and threw valuables into the snow. He found the last pure gold cigarette case and threw it on the ground. This dramatic gesture suggests the conditions for survival. Overcome conflict. Restrain anger. Respect other opinions and avoid unnecessary confrontation. Find something to celebrate and laugh together. Make sure your team's messages are constantly reinforced and that you have a sense of unity. He also encouraged all members to share information and participate in goals. The most important thing is, never give up. There is another chance. Frustration is a poison that makes all the possibilities a waste. In the United States Marine Corps, there is a slogan: an officer feeds his men first, then he eats. The anecdote that Alexander the Great poured a pail of water in front of his men in the desert is famous. The great king acted like a soldier in his willingness to end his thirst. Intuition's lexical concept is an action that directly grasps the object without going through the reasoning, experience, associations, judgments, and deduction. Intuition refers to a kind of sensory experience that improves in us and provides some knowledge. In other words, intuition is the ability to perceive immediately without going through the process of observation or reasoning. Successful people believe in their intuition. People often say, a wrong decision at the end of a long time. It is a warning that long conclusions may make the situation worse. On the contrary, the problem is solved at once by the idea that strikes like a flash. However, this hunch or intuition is often wrong. Therefore, intuition also requires training. Steve Jobs said, insight and creativity come from connecting things. It is essential to connect existing ones to synthesize new ones that have not existed before. Intuition and creativity can begin to connect. The world has many things that are invisible. It is only 10% of what people actually see and hear. Instincts, feelings, intuitions are also invisible to our eyes and sometimes difficult to prove. When Archimedes entered the bathroom, he saw the water overflowing and shouted, Eureka! It was the moment when the homework that he was worried about for a long time was solved. When people are comfortable, thoughts and ideas can come to mind. So, the ideas flicking when you're in the shower, when you're on the subway, when you try to fall asleep, are called intuition. However, depending on the person, it ends up as an ordinary thought, and to some people it leads to a creative strategy. William Duggan, author of The Seventh Sense, says that there are different kinds of intuition and that different results are produced depending on which one is used. According to his argument, there are three types of intuition: ordinary intuition, expert intuition, and strategic intuition. Ordinary intuition is a common sense, a feeling we instinctively feel, without any special effort. On the other hand, expert intuition is a momentary judgment based on past repetitive experiences. This is, for example, the ability to know exactly where a ball will fall when a soccer player is trapping the ball. Strategic intuition is an insight that solves a problem that has been struggling for a long time. The difference between expert intuition and strategic intuition comes from situations. If expert intuition is to operate in a familiar environment, strategic intuition will suddenly work in unfamiliar situations. This strategic intuition leads to creative strategy, which is called the seventh sense because it is a special form of sense that goes beyond the six senses. He argues that strategic intuition occurs through the interaction of the right and left brains. It is possible to have a strategic intuition when the right brain, which is known to be creative, and the left brain, which is known to be analytical, complement each other. It is a result of intuition that baseball players will instantly track the trajectory of the ball, which cannot be calculated by the speed of human thinking, and hit the home run. Malcolm Gladwell's introduction to Blinks emphasizes the importance of intuition. European Art Prize Gianfranco Becchina visited the Paul Getty Museum in California, USA. He suggested trading the 6th century BC Koros statue he owns for $10 million. The museum asked Stanley Magalhaes, a prominent geologist, to investigate. He took a specimen from the sculpture and entered a precise analysis. High-resolution stereoscopic microscopes, electron microscopes, electron microanalyzers, mass spectrometers, and X-ray diffraction devices. After 14 months, it is concluded that the sculpture is authentic. However, museum curator Arthur Hoden felt uncomfortable to execute it. Prior to the purchase, he showed the statue to Thomas Harbing, the world authority in Greek sculpture. He felt intuitively that it was a counterfeit at first sight. Years later, this statue turns out to be counterfeit. How did Harving see the sculpture in just 2 seconds, with only one eye to see if it was fake? Blink is literally a momentary judgment in a twinkle. We often call it a feeling, a momentary intuition, an insight, something like a first impression, a first feeling, or something that cannot be said at a very short time. Start's lexical concept is to accomplish the first step of something or action, or to let it do it. Once you start, you are going to go somehow. Nevertheless, getting started is a difficult and frightening thing. In your head, all kinds of negative paintings go through. What do I do if I fail? I started it for nothing, etc. But you have to break through it once. It is cowardly in life to scare ahead without trying. All the history of mankind had its start and beginning. There is nothing perfect from the beginning. It is life that grows gradually while learning and experiencing. All achievements in life are earned because they started right away. In a TV program, a kindergartner said, "I cannot sing without it." What is this? Many adults talked about tools such as karaoke singing machines, microphones, and tambourines, but there were separate answers for the preschoolers. It's just start. Kindergarten students know that singing starts by pressing the start button of the karaoke machine. Whether you study, work, or start a business, something will happen. You have to leave to get to your destination. What if it fails? Do not. It is a challenge to start with guts. A life that is afraid of failure and is not trying is a life that has already failed. In the book Start Here, written by a comedian Young Chul Kim, there is another process of having accomplished his dream while starting as an English instructor. One day, young Chul Kim, who started studying English at over 30 years old and was gaining popularity in English, was suggested by his English mentor to try to teach English at the university. The mentor gave him courage because he had no diploma and had no experience teaching anyone. Young Chul, even though it is good to live like this now, why don't you try to live a trembling life once in the world of English that you have dreamed of? In that sense, Kim did not hesitate and decided to start a new challenge. He chose to live such a trembling life, and through lectures he found another talent as a speaker. The vast majority of people say it is important to have a dream. But many are reluctant and afraid to take the first step in their dreams. And after starting, they are frustrated with the slump and stop dreaming. I advise people who hesitate that it is important to start with whatever happens. Also, if you meet an unstoppable obstacle in your journey toward your dream, you will arrive at a moment of success if you do not stop without forgetting the first moment you had a dream at the beginning. An example of the first penguin also tells how important it is to start. The penguins gather in the sea, but they hesitate to dive into the sea just before jumping into the sea. It is because in the sea there may be some prey that it likes, but at the same time there may be enemies such as dangerous seals and pups. There is a brave penguin that jumps to the uncertain sea among the crowd of pendulous penguins. Then, the penguins that were hesitating until then jumped into the sea at the same time. Persistence's lexical concept is not to give up easily but to endure persistently. Persistence is another expression of endurance or forbearance. There is hope unless you give up. Something happens if you do not give up with patience. To the end, a person who has patience and endurance wins the last victory. And we need to take a step further and try to get to the end. The habit of trying once more when exercising, such as bench presses or jaws, at the gym provides a starting point for growth. It is the basis of success that you cannot give up and stick with your tenacity. A saying that with 3 times of intimidation, you can even get away from being killed expresses the importance of persistence. It is very common for persistence to influence success and failure. It only depends on how long you endure until you succeed. So get up before you sit down. To succeed, everyone must fail. It is the key to success to dig 1 meter more, run only 10 meters more, and try once more. Timur, the Mongolian king who built the empire of Timur, suggested learning the patience of ants. He curiously observed ants with food repeatedly rising and falling on the wall and finally crossing the wall after 70 trials. He suggested that we learn it. No matter how talented you are, it is difficult to achieve your goal if you are not patient. Beethoven rewrote a song at least 12 times. Hemingway has retired the manuscript of The Elderly and the Sea 80 times. Michelangelo completed The Final Judgment over 8 years, and Leonardo da Vinci devoted 10 years to The Last Supper. George Van Crotch spent 26 years writing American history, and Noah Webster invested 36 years to make the Webster Dictionary. Wo Shin Chong Dan is the most famous Chinese old saying related to persistence and perseverance. It is a story of wars between O country and Weal country in the warring country period in ancient China, and tells of a Chinese king ruminating about the degradation of defeat in a war, sleeping on a tree with many thorns and licking bitter bear gallbladder. King Hepreo of O country invaded Weal country, but he was defeated by Kuchian, Weal's king, and wounded seriously, being shot by an arrow. Hepreo instructed his son, Buka, to revenge his enemy before he died. Buka was sleeping on the tree with many thorns and ruminating on his father's grudge. Finally, Buka won the war against Weal and Kuchian grudged by being a slave to Buka and was deprived of his wife by Buka and released with bare life after making a solemn vow that Weal must become a tributary forever. Kuchian went back to Weal. He hanged bitter bear gallbladder and whipped himself, licking the gallbladder at all times, and developed military power. He could win the war against O country. When publishing Chicken Soup for the Soul, the world's best-selling book, 140 publishing houses rejected. Now, more than 140 million copies have been sold worldwide. Mark Victor Hansen's persistence, which he attempted without giving up more than 140 times, was the driving force behind him. Nick Vujicic, who is spreading hope all over the world with a lecture titled, "I Am Happy, Only with His Head and Body Without His Arms and Legs," says that you should try the next 101st time, even if you fall down 100 times. It is because there is nothing that can be done if you just fall over. Winston Churchill's remark at the Oxford graduation ceremony was, "Never give up." And then he shouted, "Never, never, 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 never give up. Never give up," 7 times, and then the congratulatory message was over. The crowd applauded loudly, and they were to applaud Churchill's irresistible life. Churchill was evaluated as a child with no hope, such as a stuttering learning disability. After middle school, he could not enter Cambridge or Oxford. As a politician, he was defeated in the first election and could only be elected through a reporter. But he overcame many obstacles and worked hard not to give up, becoming a Nobel Prize winner, a hero of World War II, and a great politician. Colonel Sanders, who founded KFC at the age of 65, was able to develop into 13,000 franchises in 80 countries with persistence and perseverance. He used a yogi device in a used car and drove around the country and sold chicken recipes, but he was rejected 1,009 times in 2 years, but he did not give up. Eventually, he signed a contract with a restaurant operated by his old friend and paid 4 cents on a piece of chicken, and his chicken became a synonym for the world's chicken. There are a lot of people who think good, but few people move to action. I did not give up. Instead, I learned from that experience every time I did something, and I just found a way to do better next time. It shows that the spirit of good-natured disposition does not give up. The Marshmallow Study, conducted by Stanford University professor Michael Michel in the 1960s, is a prime example of how persistence and self-control are important. He gave children of 4 years old a marshmallow and said, "You can eat it now, but I will give you one more if you wait for me until I come." 1/3 of them ate it as soon as he left, and the second 1/3 was well tolerated at first, and ate it halfway. The remaining 1/3 of the children who had been waiting for 20 minutes and then received another marshmallow. However, there were even more surprising differences among the children in another research done 15 years later for the same children. The children who overcame temptation to the end grew to be positive, optimistic, and goal-oriented youth. On the other hand, the children who ate the marshmallows soon were not confident, stubborn, and unable to keep up their resolve. And a few years later, their gap after marriage and social life became much wider. Children who had strong patience were more amicable in their life in marriage and at work, while those who did not divorced so often and had a higher turnover rate. Sincerity's lexical concept is to be honest in thinking and expressing everything that exists, or to be genuine and affectionate in heart. You have to be truthful and sincere first to yourself. It is because you are the most precious existence on the earth under the sky. All beings in the world are dignified in their own right, but they must put themselves at the center. You have to be true to yourself, and you have to devote yourself to yourself. A man who does not take pride in himself cannot earn anything else. Looking at his own mind and looking for what his dream is the beginning of sincerity. And looking at all things in the world, everything will smile for me. It is sincerity to be willing to accept anything. Whatever you do, you have to be careful. No matter how tiny it is, it eventually comes back to you. You cannot normally assess your sincerity yourself, but it is granted by others. Therefore, it is important to have certain behaviors and attitudes in order to be recognized by others. The important thing is not words, but attitudes and behaviors. Good writing and words are overflowing, but you have to be concerned about if it is really true, if you really live your life with even doing your best, or what is your sincerity. The way to be genuine in yourself and in the world is to make a little effort to make the world beautiful. As you change, the surroundings can change, and as the surroundings change, the world can change. One way you are changing is to invest 10% of your time and income for yourself. You have to find your sincerity to increase your own value by reading books, traveling, and enjoying your thoughts. Donating 10% of time and income for not only oneself but also people in the world makes the world beautiful. Find the job that you really like and do your best in the job. If you do what you like, you can make it shine, and if you do it, you will get good results. Change's lexical concept is the nature, shape, and condition of things change. The world is changing rapidly, and we have to make every effort to renew our resume every year. The beginning of change is from me. You have to change before you have to. Only changing and innovating before you are forced to change is a prerequisite for survival and prosperity. If you do not change, you will die when you know that you cannot change yourself. I think everyone will change the world, but no one thinks about changing himself, said Tolstoy. No change, no survival. Change empowers people who have hope. You do not know if things will work out. Change is an inspiration to a confident person. Because there is a challenging task, which is the stepping stone for success. Former chairman Lee Kun-hee of the Samsung Group said, "You can survive only when you change everything but your wife and children." Dr. Russell H. Conwell of the United States investigated the lives of 4,043 millionaires in the United States. Most of them were in poorer conditions than those of ordinary people in materials, education, and regular training. But they had a common point, and they had a clear goal, a passion for practicing the goal, and patience of determination. The common denominator to success is a dream to start change, a passion to practice change, a challenge to pursue change, patience that does not give up change, and hope for greater change. These are the forces of change that originate from yourself. If you always act like you always did, you always get what you have always got. It is hard to expect that tomorrow will be better by living today like yesterday. Futurist Alvin Toffler compares the rate of change of various economic entities in his book, The Future of Wealth. If a company is running at 100 miles an hour, NGOs are chasing 90 miles an hour, and each family is driving 60 miles relatively quickly. However, trade unions and governments are increasingly swaying to 30 and 25 miles each, and the legal organization is abandoning the race at 1 mile per hour. Consumer change speed is 120 miles per hour. Smart and brave consumers outperform companies in many aspects, including purchasing power, intelligence, ideas, and aggressiveness. Now we have to change ourselves to the speed at which the customer is running at 120 miles an hour. Sustainable change is a new challenge for individuals. It is hard to survive without sustainable change in the age of infinite competition. Numerous attempts at self-development are also an endeavor to adapt to change. But not all such efforts are successful. For a successful individual change, awareness transformation that thoroughly understands the need for change should be given priority. Also, it is necessary to focus on maximizing the ripple effect of change and habituation of changed behavior patterns. The power that drives change comes from yourself. I put a few bees and flies together in a bottle and experimented with the bottom side facing the window. As a result, the bee was tired of finding the exit only in the bright direction, and died, but flew here and there, fled to the other side of the spout in not even 2 minutes. This story was written in the book of In Search of Excellence by Waterman and Tom Peters, and demonstrates just how dangerous past stereotypes and fixed ideas are. Of course, to dislike change is the instincts of people. There are not just one or two things that are frightening and uncomfortable. For example, when the wind of change blows, new things have to be learned, and in some cases the current place is shaken. The idea that a crisis may soon be encountered is folded back and shouted. The old thing is also good, and people return to their original position. All are phenomena caused by past practices and stereotypes in us. When you wear new shoes, your feet hurt at first. Even though your walking is difficult and painful, you cannot take off your new shoes and wear the old one again. At first, your foot hurts, but if you continue to walk with the new ones, you will be able to walk easily. Just as Tarzan had to release the line he is holding in order to move forward, you have to boldly release many things that you have thought of as a natural custom to go to a better society. It is desirable for you to stand up, challenge and pioneer if the change for development is a demand of the times which cannot be countered. In our proverb, there is a saying, start with one step even for 1,000 steps. It means that there is an order in the work as you pile up the bricks from the floor gradually. No matter how busy you are, you need to string a thread on the needle. You cannot sew it on your waist. It is a process that cannot be omitted. Change is similar to a marathon. If you give up in the middle because it is too hard, it will go back completely. The process must be faithfully implemented for change. There is no development without change. Of course, the reality of the moment may be difficult. But let's keep in mind that the real crisis is when everyone does not change. What is the reason why you cannot try even while dreaming of change? It is neither because there is no money, nor because circumstances are not allowed. It is because of familiarity, laziness, and fear. If you do not live as you think, you will think of it as you live. Paul Valery said, our lives begin to change thereof. Goethe said, do not say really hard, but later, but you have to start doing what you need right now. Do not put it off, you have to run right now. Happy success always comes to the prepared person. Opportunity has a property of steering by if not prepared. Predict the future and design a new life constantly. Try to grind and polish yourself to be the best. You take the initiative first. What you are doing is exciting and fun, but doing what others order to do is a slave life. You believe in intuition in your heart and make decisions according to your intuition. You have to start anything to get results. You enjoy trying new things. You do not give up until the end. You go toward the goal you set yourself with patience. You do sincerity in life, and 10% of income reinvests in yourself. As the world changes, you change or you change the world.